Hi, it's Pastor Andy again, and today I want to talk a little bit about values. And as we think through the changes that we're making and the preparation that we're making towards returning back to having in-person services in just another 10 days or so from now, that's a wonderful thought. But I want to talk about values. I'm going to start by by talking about a false value. You may have been to the store recently, and if you have been, perhaps you are beginning to see some things back on the shelves that you didn't see a month ago, 6 weeks ago, like toilet paper. We've been serving at the food pantry for the last couple of weeks, and we were talking today about other things that are back on the shelves, like about a month ago. There was an entire aisle at Walmart that had no cereal on it, very few canned goods. All the pasta was gone, etc. And of course, cleaning solutions, cleaning supplies, and toilet paper have been out of stock in many places for quite some time. And so, what happened during this? During the beginning of this pandemic, as we really began to take stock of it here in America, is that people began to place value on something that they could get their hands on. And there was a lot of discussion about the psychology of why toilet paper. And one of the thoughts that makes reasonable sense to me is that if you think about it, for most people, the largest package that you walk out of a store with is toilet paper. Maybe paper towels, but again, that's the same type of thing. But canned goods are small, and maybe a box of cereal or rice or something might equate near the size of toilet paper. But during this time of complete uncertainty, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, wow, I feel like I'm grabbing something large and I can hold on to it. And so the psychology of that is why some believe that toilet paper was the commodity that people were taking. And again, that makes sense to me. But we placed a value on something that did not matter at all. I mean, think about it. Very few people that have this illness have nausea or diarrhea or anything like that. It is respiratory. So, toilet paper could help if you don't have Kleenex or paper towel or something. I guess, as you're coughing or sneezing, certainly it could help in that. But that's not the way we think of toilet paper. Normally, you would think that Kleenex would be empty, but you could still find Kleenex. And so we placed value on things that were not as important in the critical moment of the day. Now, this goes back to something I said yesterday as we think about reacting versus responding. And again, if you look in the dictionary, those two words are going to be used probably within one another's definition. Certainly in a thesaurus, they are going to be right in hand with one another in each word's entry. But that was a reaction. Buying toilet paper without thinking about what it was really doing was a panic move. Somebody went into the store and bought a bunch of toilet paper, and therefore other people started buying toilet paper. Now, there's a family here in town, not about toilet paper, although I'm sure that was a part that was true as well. They have a larger family, and when they started seeing, when the mother started seeing more and more items, people getting more and more items, and then restrictions put on, she's like, this is what people are doing now. This is what we do every Tuesday. And now all of a sudden, the family couldn't get more than a loaf of bread. Well, they're going to go through a loaf of bread in less than a meal, maybe not quite that bad, but this is reaction. This is responding. Let me use that word, I guess. But this is responding without thinking. This is actually just, I see something, I got to have it, I'm going to do it. Taking time to respond would say, you know what, we might need toilet paper, but not for this pandemic. Again, it's not that nobody had those symptoms, but by and large, the symptoms are respiratory. It is a respiratory illness. And therefore, a proper response would be to, well, let me buy Kleenex or some vapor or something like that to help me through the evening. So anyway, we place values on a lot of wrong things. And one of the things that we have found out as a society over these last 6 weeks is what we do value. Um, we go to the store and we may hoard up on a little bit, but we're buying things that are important, not things that are frivolous. So some people might still be, but for the most part, most people are buying what they need. I need this to get me through, and maybe there's some comfort in that. But as people have lost jobs, their purchases have changed. They are now really measuring: do we really need even something that seems like a staple in our world today, like a Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney Plus, that just started a few months ago. Do we need those things? Now, on the other hand, people are saying, man, without this, how could I possibly survive? And I get that. But there's been a lot of cuts. There's been a lot of thoughts. There's been a lot of changes as people are thinking of what we value. Now, here is the reality of all of this. As we think back, not quite 20 years, remember 9/11. On that day, what did we value? Most of you watching this probably were not near the entirety of your family around 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock, or well, Eastern time, so about 8 o'clock or so Central time, 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock Central time, or whatever the exact times were. Most of us were not around our family. As I've mentioned before, I was in St. Louis. So my concern was, can I get a hold of my wife? I couldn't because phone lines were jammed. I've been in another situation where we were separated during a tornado, and I was basically driving right into it, and didn't know that at the time. And it was where my wife was. It actually took out part of the building where she was at the time. Obviously, she was fine, thankfully, but I was trying to get a hold of her, and the kids were with her at that time. So we change our values, and right now people are realizing that some of the things that we put a lot of stock in, like being in a different place every single day, watching child, grandchild, nephew, niece, whatever, taking care of our family, not taking care of ourselves. See, right now that's one of the values that's come back for us right now, is that we are more inclined to take care of ourselves. We're realizing that in this downtime, more families are having dinner. And again, I know I've talked about some of this, but as we think about values, my question is how long does this last? We're trying to be intentional. These videos are my way of trying to be intentional about what is going to happen as we come back and meet together at this point in about 10 days. That's going to be different. We're going to be sitting on one side of the uh, sanctuary in one service, and another side another service. Oh, we're having two services. We haven't had that before. So we're doing some things differently. We're thinking differently with intentionality. But how long does that last? On September 9th, there were not a lot of people in church. On September 11th, everybody said, I got to go to church on next Sunday. So September 16th, September 23rd, a lot of people in church. By September 30th, it was waning. By October, we were invading Afghanistan, and maybe just a little bit of a resurgence, but then it just waned. And over 20 years, of course, we learned not to need God anymore. We began to rely upon ourselves. Oh, but we have no control over this microscopic virus. So now we're looking in our fear for something that is invisible. We are turning to the one who is invisible, and yet the one who has more power over this little tiny virus that is impacting us so much. But how long will it last? And that is up to you. Right now, you are looking to be more intentional about some of the things that you do. You're making a store list to say, if this is here, I want to buy this because we need it. My wife and I found Lysol last week. One can of Lysol. There were like 4 cans. And reaction would have been, hey, let's buy them all just in case. No, we bought one because we were about out of Lysol, and we buy Lysol regularly. But the idea is it's going to be up to you as to how intentional you will be, not only as we move towards what seems to be this virus, the effects of this virus slowing down, but when we move beyond this current aspect. And so I want you to encourage. I'm sorry. Let me back up. I want to encourage you to continue to think from a intentional purpose, to have intention about how you live your life, and to consider the lessons that you've learned and move forward. Again, I know some of this is repetitious, but this is going to set me up for tomorrow's message, which I'm going to reflect on a little bit personal. about something that God was doing intentionally in me even before this virus, which now I see how valuable that has truly been. So that's the message for today. I know some people watch this live as I'm recording it. Others watch this later. I'm going to try and do this around 1 o'clock. I know I was trying to do it in the mornings, but like about 8:45 or 9 o'clock over the last couple of weeks. But I'm just going to shoot for about 1 o'clock Central Time each day because I've been gone most mornings this week and many of last week as well. Next week I know that I have responsibilities and appointments on Monday and Tuesday. So I'm going to shoot for a little bit after lunch, give me a little bit of downtime, and just go do these about 1 o'clock Central Time each day for those who want to tune in live. Won't be exactly at 1 o'clock, might be, but it's here or there on either side. So until tomorrow, think about how you can be intentional, not just in the moment, but in the days to come. And as I mentioned before, take time to reflect on this. Write down what you're learning in this, because we will have other challenges, other crises in the future, maybe and hopefully not as bad as this one. But the lessons that we learn now can serve us well then. Also, until tomorrow, take care.